Welcome in, Agile Mentors. We're back for another episode of the Agile Mentors podcast. I'm with you as always, Brian Milner. And today, one of our favorites is back joining us for an episode here. We have Mr. Scott Dunn with us. Welcome in, Scott.
Thank you so much, Brian. I didn't know I was one of the favorites. That's so wonderful. That just made my day.
Absolutely, you're one of our favorites. We don't have people back on that aren't favorite. No, see, I got to be careful about that.
Yes.
I don't want anyone else out there who hasn't been back on to think, oh, they don't like me.
Now we're in trouble.
No, that's not the case. Not the case at all. Scott is back with us. Scott is a certified Scrum trainer like myself. He teaches classes in being a Scrum Master and product owner, and does classes with us on Mountain Goat Software. So we like to have him on because Scott has some really unique perspectives and has a lot of experience in the industry. And I thought the topic that we were going to talk about would be really good to have Scott on to talk about. It's kind of hard to describe the topic. Let me try. Let me attempt. There's a lot of time in classes that questions will come up around, let's say, hierarchies within the organization. If you have your team and you have junior developers and senior developers, or you have people who are really good at one part of the product you work on, and they have a lot of knowledge in that area, and other people don't. Just sort of the conflict that represents, the troubles that come out of those kind of scenarios, and really the strategies maybe we should be thinking of to try to alleviate that. So, Scott, in your experience, what kind of issues have you seen with, people at different stages of their career trying to work together in a small team like a Scrum team?
Well, I'll give a little bit of background for those who are listening, because let me put this out there, and you can say that's crazy talk, Scott. But I would honestly say, people talk about, hey, when you're rolling out Scrum, you probably run into problems with the project managers. And that's true for different reasons we could talk about. But I'll say I run into just as many problems with the leads. And I think that's because they have an unofficial authority. So it's not on the org chart, but boy, they hold a lot of sway. Now, for those who might be leads and feel like, wow, Judgy McJudge is coming down on me. My friends, I've been a lead, I've been a developer, I've been a technical architect. I started as a little scrub computer operator who would load EBSA tape. So I've gone all the way through all of that. But I think some people, Brian, they have this career path, and the end of that career path is lead or maybe architect. So understandably, people are going there. And yet I run into these problems because this is what I see as the classic case. I'd love your thoughts on it, is that we're rolling out Scrum and there's only 3 roles, right? Product owner, Scrum Master, team. So now everyone has a voice, and I love the democracy of that. And yet, commonly, the lead was one who decided the estimates. The lead was the one who decided the approach. The lead's the one who decided what the design was, often in isolation. And so everyone gets to decide. Everyone's voice matters. And boy, that doesn't go over swimmingly. Let me tell you a story of how crazy it can get. It's what I affectionately call the farting story. So we are
okay.
We are coaching at an organization that everything seems like it should be going well. We can't figure out why they're having the problems they're having on hitting their say-do ratio within just some kind of decent range, like Mike says, 80%, 100% of the time doing 80% of what they say, or something like that. And I can't figure it out. And we've observed numerous meetings. I go into a product backlog refinement meeting with the 2 sets of teams, and everyone's lined up, big giant conference table, and they get the cards out, and they're going through that, and it's being facilitated by the Scrum Master. And it's like, okay, what does everyone think? Pick your cards down, 1, 2, 3, and they vote. And then right away you hear this, and I'm looking around like, oh, that's so embarrassing. It's after lunch. That's rough, man, right? And no one flinches. Oh, they're so polite. And then it happens again. And it happens again. And my friend, it is going throughout the entirety of the meeting. And everyone's just like, it's an 8, right? And no one's doing anything. And I'm looking around like, am I in the twilight zone? What is happening here? As soon as the meeting's over and we're filing out, my skin is crawling, and I grab some, like, can you what that? And that's Jerry. I'm like, Jerry, like, you know, you know. So I go and I track down Jerry as quick as I could. I'm like, Jerry, can you help? I know, Scott. I know I shouldn't be doing whatever. And so Jerry knows it's not wrong. Here's the deal. Jerry was the lead. Jerry used to be the one to decide these things. Now they're all deciding it. How does Jerry like that? Not at all. Can Jerry do anything about it? No, right? But he can mess up your meetings, right? He can be subversively, like, disrespectful to the meetings. And what are you going to do? You'll go tell HR, Jerry's making farting noises, right? So no, this is the crazy thing, Brian. That had been going on for months.
Wow.
And as soon as I addressed it, we had a good talk. And basically what it was like, hey, Jerry, your position still matters. Here's why I think that your influence is valuable. Here's why I think your voice matters. All he needed to know was back to, like, the SCARF model. Hey, you have stability. Hey, you have a voice here that matters. You're still important. You have contributions that make a difference. All that stuff. But no one had ever really talked them through. Yes, I know you don't get to do those special things anymore, but you still have a valuable contribution to make. And he was fine after that. But that's the kind of craziness I think that happens when we just think someone like a lead who has a very important role and position to play and has special things, all that gets changed up, but no one ever, like, talked them through it. And sometimes that's like, shifting gears without the clutch, and it just grinds.
Yeah, no, I agree. And that, with those kind of individuals, I may not agree with it, but it's understandable why they would feel like, hey, I'm being taken down a peg.
Yes.
And I had earned this. I had earned my position and my authority and everything else. And now you're telling me I don't have that.
Absolutely.
Or no one's really telling them that, but they're just assuming it.
Yes.
And you're right. The problem is really that no one's talked to them and explained, how they still have an important part to play. So yeah, there's definitely those kind of individuals, right? There's the leads who are, that have the farting problem. The leads the leads that are anti. They're going to try to. They're going to be an obstacle, right? They don't want to do this. They're going to put up as many roadblocks as possible, right? I think there's another class as well, which is, akin. It's a cousin of that one, and it's a person who, they're not deliberately trying to be obstructionary, right? They're not obstructionists. But they're standing in the way of the team and self-organization. They have this position. They've been, their job title now says lead developer, and the other people on the team don't say lead developer. So, let's say the majority of them don't. And this person sees their responsibility as, I need to step up when I'm in these situations, and they're expecting me to tell them what to do because I'm in this role. So it's like you said, this is a little bit different. It's not that the person is anti self-organization. It's just they see a set of responsibilities that are on their shoulders, and they're trying to fulfill those. They're trying to fulfill expectations, but they're actually, going contrary to what it is we're trying to build with a team.
Yes.
You experience that person?
Yeah, and I'm glad you bring that one up. And I think for so long we've said, look, especially in IT, your value is the special knowledge that you have. So if you continue that road, right, you're the only one that knows X, Y, and Z at this highest level. And so you're extra super special. And so sometimes that can be a bit of a setup to protect the jobs. But also it's like, hey, that's all we expect of you. What we don't expect. So one example I like a lot is down at Hunter Industries down in San Diego, is that for them, your career path as a technical person going from dev to senior dev to lead, et cetera, is at the end of that line, it's essentially coach. Level up everyone, give that knowledge away. And I don't think we actually expect them to that, although we're all learners in the tech space. So if that was set as an expectation, great. I think by default, Agile would say, like, hey, you're voting and you don't agree, then discuss why, and you're leveling them up that way, for example, in the product backlog refinement. But we don't have the conversation to say, it would be nice, because especially if we give them credit for the special things that they do, or what stories they're getting done because they're assigned the harder ones. Well, you're actually incenting me to not help the others because there's no points
Mm.
for helping. And we don't have anything in the working agreement like, this is what I've seen effective. Hey, we all agree we should share knowledge. Great. Then we'll pair on one item per sprint, or one person must learn something each sprint, so they can still self-organize. And now the lead, among others, might be incented. Or if they're the only ones, because commonly they might be the critical path, they must pair with someone else at least once per sprint. But there's no expectation that part of my job is to help, part of my job is to level up. And so we
Mm.
work a little bit in reverse. I think with that clarity of, oh, these are the goals, then great. What you're describing is a perfect, situation that we could solve fairly easily by switching those expectations up a little bit and just letting them know, hey, being great at your job now as a lead looks like this. Now we would obviously want to go back to like what's in the HR system for the job description, make sure performance management tracks with
Yeah.
that. But outside that, I think, yeah, you give a good scenario that we really could make a difference on fairly easily.
Yeah. No, I agree. If you're the scrum master on that team, you probably can spot that and bring some clarity to that pretty quickly. If you're an agile coach and you're coaching multiple teams, that might be a little bit harder because you're not in the day-to-day of the team, so you don't see it in action as often. You're depending on the scrum master of the team to kind of fill you in and let you know that those things are happening. But yeah, you're right. It should be fairly simple to solve because it's just a misunderstanding,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
Um,
I just saw a great example of this from a scrum master, and I think she's great because she's having these one-on-ones and literally saying like, look, you got all these tickets on your plate, right? Not a
yeah,
surprise. The lead's got these really important ones. Basically working with them, say, how can you disseminate some of that? How can you decentralize and push down and empower others and give these to other people? Because clearly, like, you're the bottleneck. I think that kind of one-on-one, let me work with you. Otherwise, what will happen, I see this a lot, is like, yeah, I just got a lot on my plate. I'm the only one that, and I don't even think they realize like it doesn't have to be that way. But your point about the scrum master actually catching that, if they're not spread too thin, if they're truly coaching the team, can sit with them and simply say, I'm just seeing what's on your plate. You're overloaded. You're the single
yeah,
critical path, and that's not good for them, not good for the team, the org. Let's just move these things over. And that will obviously create this environment of coaching as they go and give one of the product backlog items to so and so, and then sit with them to make sure they're ready to tackle it and what do they need from them and answer questions, right? But as one
yeah,
recent example, I thought, spot on. That's what we would love to see more of.
yeah. I think there's sometimes a misunderstanding from leadership as well in those scenarios because when they encourage that more senior person to take the harder things, and there's an expectation for that person to always take the harder things, there's sort of an assumption there that that person enjoys doing the harder things, like, and yes, if I'm that person, yes, I enjoy a challenge, but darn it, I don't want to always get stuck with the thing no one wants to get stuck with. Sure, I'm happy to lend my expertise to that, but man, it'd be cool to work on some new technology. It'd be cool to do some other things, at different points as well, and not always be, oh, there's something really tough. Yeah, give that to this person because they're the one that handles all the tough stuff.
Absolutely. I mean, the people that and unfortunately get kind of pigeonholed into something because that's the really tough stuff now, but that'll still be the tough stuff about that aging system that still they're the only one that knows how that works. So now,
Yeah,
to your point, I'm not getting freed up. So it's almost in their own self-interest. Like, hey, the sooner you can disseminate that information and equip others, you won't always be the one with the shoulder tap on the legacy system that you're the one
mm,
that designed, built, what spearheaded all that effort too. Yeah, that's no fun for that person
yeah,
either. Feels great in the moment, but yeah, fast forward a few
yeah.
years like that ain't no fun at all.
Yeah, I've seen both sides of that as well. I've seen the person who, um, kind of fell backwards into that, and oh gosh, really? Okay, and they keep ending up being the person that's a go-to person for that, and they get pigeonholed, and then they're stuck doing that, even though they don't want to be doing it. But then I've also seen the other person who says, "Hey, job security. I'm the only person who knows how to operate this AS400. So, you know, I'm gonna I'm gonna do that, and no one else can do it, so they can't fire me. They're always gonna need me around. I'm the only person who knows how to do this thing.
Oh my goodness. Now, coming from a consulting background, unfortunately, I've seen the end of the line of that a few times because some people are like,
Yeah,
really? It takes that long? Right? Because you gotta have 40 hours and the estimates gotta match all that kind of crazy. And at some point, like, we're gonna get some outside help and just deliver that, which is rough. So yeah, I've seen both sides too. I think in the end, I remember writing a long time ago to try to work with these people, especially since I was there too, that look, it's not the knowledge you have, it's that you're a great team player and you're a great
yeah,
learner and work with others. As long as you're doing that, yes, you'll have job security. And yeah, there's new technology. It's cool to be the best at what you could, but sometimes we shift into this almost protective sense, and then you can feel it not. It's not working as well, and then you almost have to kind of be controlling and manage all that. Whereas
yeah,
in consulting, you would get thrown to brand new stuff and you just got to figure that stuff out and be of service and of value, et cetera. So I like that. I did want to pick back up on that issue of these knowledge silos, or I'm the only one.
yeah,
So if I'm pigeonholed, I think this is a great opportunity for someone to say this as a raise of the hand with the team, like, hey, these things keep coming to me, and or that's a critical path, that's a risk, and we should manage risk. Let's agree that we pair on those from now on. I've seen that work pretty quickly. That a few pairings now. It doesn't have to be me all the time. If I'm on the service delivery side as a scrum master, I'm trying to make sure that we consistently deliver value. Like I'm trying to manage. Look, if we can't get something done by a date because only so and so knows X, whose fault is that? The business or IT? That's IT's fault,
yeah.
right? So we've got to
Right.
manage that and not say like, look, let's help this situation of fungibility of resources by pairing, et cetera, or mobbing and mixing it up. The team owns the work within the sprint, right? They
Yeah.
can decide the how. If they know they don't want to end up bottlenecked or a single point of failure, or I can't. I remember being asked like, "Hey, how do we reach you over the weekend?" That's no fun at all because you're the only
No.
guy, you're the only one that knows that, and they know that. So yeah,
Yeah.
find a way in the working view is to say, let's begin trying running experience of what works to smooth out that knowledge, as long as the person's agreeing to play well. If not, like you gave a couple examples, then we need to, as a coach, right? The scrum master's got to go and say, let's have a conversation about your value here, et cetera. See, are they feeling, their jobs? I don't know. Like lots of things could be going on. That's definitely worthy of a conversation for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. And for the people who are kind of doing that deliberately to ensure their job security, I've had some conversations with people there to say, this is not truly job security. I know that like you might view it that way now because no one else in this company can do it and you think they can't fire me. But when something gets annoying like that, you might pay a little bit to keep it going for a while, but the organization eventually is going to get tired and sick of that. And they're going to find some way to, they're going to pay some consulting firm to come in and, transfer it from that old system to a new system or rewrite it or do whatever they need to do. They're going to bite the bullet so that that's not the case anymore. And then where is that person left?
Yes.
Right? They're left with a skill set that's way outdated. Nobody out there is going to hire them again because no one is using that antiquated technology anymore.
Nope.
Job security is getting to a place where if, God forbid something happens to my job, I know that there's, dozens of other companies who need what I do.
Yes.
And,
Yes.
I can go find another job quickly because I've made myself that marketable.
Yes. And I've been in the back rooms on both sides, both from the management side, project management side, or outside consultant. I have heard that conversation. For those who might relate to this situation or find yourself there, I've been in the back room conversations multiple times where they are actually trying to plan a way out of being dependent on this person and moving off. Because you're right. If
Yeah.
you are not enjoyable to work with, if you're not, literally, they will rewrite the system. They will, at some point it becomes personal. They don't care. They'll find a way to manage around some of that. They'll outsource it. They'll get a new platform, whatever that takes. Seen that happen again and again and again. So I go back to, look, think about the value you bring and don't come from a mindset of fear and anxiety about some of that. Be engaging, be a learner, try things out, share the knowledge. That will go a long way. That they'll then say, hey, let's give them some of this new technology to learn and become experts at that too. And now
Yeah.
away you go, right? That's what I'd love to see. But yeah, there's been so many times like, wow, if this person knew the conversations behind closed doors about how this is going, and yet they would say it's working well for them because they're keeping that knowledge to themselves and they're not
Right.
sharing with anyone else. And yeah, there's an end of the line on that one a bit for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I want to make sure we flip it a bit and talk about, because we're, obviously Scrum teams are going to have leads, right? And I think I say this in classes. I think it's a good thing, right? I think it's a good thing that an organization has a career path for developers so that they can achieve higher and they can be recognized for their achievements, and get more recognition in the organization, get more bumps in salary and other things. There's lots of good that comes from having a hierarchy of a development structure. So I do want to make sure we address the other side of it. When you have those things, if we're saying these are things you don't want to do,
Mm-hmm.
how should these kind of roles interact on a Scrum team? If we're all equals,
Yeah.
but I'm a lead developer and someone else is not,
Mm-hmm.
how does that play out in Scrum?
Yeah. Well, I love, so yeah, I like we coming back on the positive side. What I love to see is, let's just say that I clearly have a lot more experience than the others. We just have a couple new hires, or our team's growing. The mindset of like, I love to help others succeed. I love to help the team succeed. I love to empower and level up other people, right? What's the mindset of making everyone better, sharing what you know? Because in the end, right, great team player love to learn. So examples might be like, hey, we need to make that design decision. Rather than do that in isolation and deliver it to the team, call a meeting, bring them in, and basically coach them up on how you approach the problem, coach them up on the ways that technology can solve the problem, help find those gaps with the junior devs, and help them learn to think the way you think as well. So when we're doing that kind of whiteboarding session, as one person says, we don't model because the model's right. We model to have the conversation. We're trying to make that a teaching moment, a coaching moment. So the true leadership, when I look at technical leadership, it's no different from the leadership in the cow classes, where we normally work with managers and agile coaches. But technical leadership is still, I want to develop these people. I want to see these people grow and able to tackle more. So as a lead, I look at that. I like what I mentioned about Hunter, where I look at it as part of my job is to coach up the junior devs and help them
Yeah.
get these new skills and abilities and invest in them. Where do we, how did I come up with that solution? How can I help them come up with that solution as well? And try to take the time, not to give a solution, but to show them the way I'm thinking, so that if I'm not there, they have a lot more, capability, tools, equipment to do that kind of job. Which also, by the way, means you're going to be able to scale that. It means I'm not putting in 50 or 60-hour weeks, because other people can be, tapped on the shoulder to jump in and help as well. So I think the biggest one is, do they see their value as just knowledge? But really, for me, the magic is them leveling up and coaching others. If you look at the Certified Scrum Developer, the end of the line for the CSD with the Scrum Alliance is Certified Scrum Developer Professional, and there's an aspect of coaching and leveling up at that highest order as a software craftsman, right, programmer, developer. And I think that that's really cool that they've kind of identified that as well too.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, it's.
I was going to add one other
Sorry.
piece on that.
Yeah, go for it.
Because it just occurred to me, like part of this isn't just in the particular problem we're helping solve. Part of it is that culture of learning. So when I see like brown bag sessions going on, yeah, I'd love your leads to be, showing up, speaking. Here's how we tackle. So here's some new technology I'm aware of. If they're the tip of the spear on learning, they're bringing that back in. They're going out, they're finding new stuff, and then bringing that back in. So they can actually cultivate just a general culture of learning as well on the technology side. The best companies I've seen that were really innovative and doing great work, there was a lot of learning going on, but their most senior people were like these pollinators of the learning all the time. So not even just a particular solution for a project or problem that we're facing, but just in general, are we learners? And we're kind of showing that to everyone, cultivating that with everyone. That I think is a real thing a lead can do too, as far as facilitate, kind of help grow, develop that culture of learning within their department too.
Yeah. Yeah, there's two kind of analogies I will make here that I tend to use when I try to explain this. One, I probably use too much, sports analogies, but if you think about the superstar player on any sports team, you've got superstars on the team, but you don't necessarily call everyone who's really good at their job a leader on the team, right? If you're a leader on the team, what you expect is that that person has an overall responsibility for the kind of the temperature of the team, right? They're not just concerned with that they're going to do their best job, but if they see someone else who's not doing a good job, or they see someone else who needs extra practice, I'm thinking about, like, for a quarterback that, in football, that wants to stays after and works, throwing with the receivers, longer than practice. Why do they do that? They don't do it because, well, for example, I know Tom Brady would do that kind of stuff back when he played, and he wasn't doing that because he needed the reps, right? He's doing it because the receivers need the reps, and they need to get in sync, and they need to, have the chemistry and everything else. So I think, when I kind of think about a lead developer on a team, that's what I want to see is, are you raising the temperature of everyone around you? The other analogy I like to think about non-sports is, I like to think about the medical profession a little bit. I've got some close friends that are doctors, and when you think about how hospitals work and the training system for the medical profession, one of my favorite phrases that they have is see one, do one, teach one. And I think that's a great model for us as well, that, we should think about, yes, I've never seen how to do that before. Okay, well, let's sit together. I'll show you how to do this. All right. Now that you saw me do it, you take the next one. You figure out how to do this next one on your own. Now that you've done it once, you've successfully done it. Hey, here's a new person who's come on just this last week. Why don't you teach them? But keeping that continuous cycle of, like you said, learning, right? It's the expectation. And if I'm a leader, think about, the residents in a hospital versus, first year med students or whatever, first year residents versus, I don't know. This is where I'm out of my depth. But whatever the hierarchy is, the people that are more senior there in the hospital, they're not just taking care of patients, and they're not just taking care of the most difficult patients.
Right.
Their job is to raise the temperature of the people who are new and get them up to a level so that they can eventually be in the position they're in.
Yes.
Because they're going to continue to move up. So that's what we want to model in our teams as well, is just that, do one, see one, do one, teach one.
Yeah, I like that. And I think that's an easy conversation to have in expectations. And I'm like, oh, okay. Right. So, and I've watched them. It reminds me of a story where we're trying to approach some work that they're breaking down, and only one person was speaking. And I kept trying to figure out, like, the rest of the team's not speaking. And I realized, like, oh, that's the lead. And then thankfully another one walked in and kind of overhears the conversation and says, no, we can break that down, and goes up to the board. And before you know it, the whole team's talking. They come up, and this other lead is walking them through the approach he's thinking, and they're engaged. So everyone's leveling up. So some of that, that expectation, like, I can lead and guide this conversation and walk them through, I think, afterwards. As you said, that expectation of, yes, you're doing it. Now think about the higher order, which is, show others how to do that, how to approach it. Because I think I've been around some phenomenal leads who know so much, and they're so capable, and I'm so impressed with them, and no one else knows. No one else benefits, right? And I don't even know if they're aware. They think they're doing their job by tackling these really hard things. Like, wow, but the gap is so big between them and the others that it's almost like this learned helplessness of the juniors who are like, well, yeah, I don't know. I'm just waiting for them to, right? So it's such a good opportunity when you, like, that simple little model, like walking them through that, like, hey, you can help them think through it and be, off and running if we take some time to actually coach them up in that way too. So yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that. I think that's an excellent example of that.
Yeah. And I know in my career, I've had several, I wouldn't call them difficult, but I've had several one-on-one conversations with lead developers where I've sort of, co-opted them a little bit and made them a secret ally.
Yes.
To say, here's what I'm trying to do, right? I'm the scrum master on this team. I'm really trying to encourage this team to become self-organizing, and really, reach consensus on ideas, find the best architectures, designs, by committee, not by one person. and you're doing a great job as the lead. Here's how you can help me.
Yes.
If you can you help me in when this kind of a situation comes up? Don't be so quick to just throw out the solution, but ask questions about what the solution might be. It's a subtle change, but even that subtle change of just, well, what if we did this? There's several things we could do. What do you guys think? What does everybody else think? What's the right approach to doing this?
Yes. You're reminding me of the
And
situation.
don't spring it as a trap. Don't
No.
say, here's two options. Pick the right one, because if you don't, I'm going to make fun of you.
There was a situation when they're all voting, and the team's like, "No, it's a 20," and this lead's like, "No, it's a 2." And finally, like the team's like, "Fine, then you do it," because but basically it wasn't like you're not sharing and helping us understand why. So because we don't know, we're going to be risk averse and size it up higher, but you're not walking. So contrast that with another time when someone was sizing it high, and this lead's like, "So help me understand why you think it's so big." Well, because it's not. They said, "You know what? We're just using technology X and Y, right? So all we have to do is A, B, and C." So tell you what, let's sit down and go through it together, and let's agree that if I sit with you, what would that look like? And they voted again, and they both agreed it was half. They're splitting the difference. At another company, the leads will sit down and do like coaching sessions to teach the QA scripting, right? So there's a way of giving that away. I think is really, really nice. And that mindset you're describing is so powerful about, hey, what does everyone think? And really being clear, like, hey, I got my opinions, but we all have a voice here. Trying to democratize that in the meetings. For those who are listening who are leads, or if you're a Scrum Master working with the leads, I would second what you're saying, Brian. From when I see companies really move forward in agility, a lot of times the leads can be such amazing participants and players in leveling that up. Right? So we're just working with a company. They've had tremendous results. The rest of the companies, other departments are noticing. So they're ready for like, okay, what's next? What's next? I said, send your leads to the certified Scrum developer and advanced certified Scrum developer, right? Learn how to do agile development using agile practices. But my point was, I even kind of thought twice, like, should I be so explicit to say the leads? And like, yeah, send it, because why? The leads have such influence. So if they buy in, they can make a trenches level difference on true agility that in some ways no one else really can have, right? Because they're influencing up and down with the teams, and up in terms of, yes, that's the estimate. No, we can't do that because the technology doesn't. No, sorry, you got to move the data out. It just is. They are listened to within the org. They're respected for the technical knowledge. And sometimes when the lead says it can't be done, like that's the only person who said it can't be done, that the rest of the org's like, okay, he said it can't be done. It can't be done. Anyone else said it can't be done, the PM, a manager, a regular dev, they're like, nah, yeah, you got to get it done. But sometimes those leads, they carry such weight and influence. So if they buy in Agile, they might be the biggest ally you could ever have if we would just take the time to have the kind of conversation you're talking about.
Yeah, they've got earned trust. I mean, they've earned their position, which is why they're where they're at. So, like I say, again, I don't think that anyone who's a lead should look down on Agile or Scrum and think, oh, Agile or Scrum are telling me that I don't matter. No, it's just the opposite. You matter, maybe even more than you did before, because you're setting the example by what you do, not by what you say.
Absolutely. And when they decide there's a different way we can approach this work, that they're clearing out bottlenecks based on knowledge silos, et cetera, you're watching real results happen, and they are the linchpin for some of that. They're the key to some of that success that no one else would have played. So really glad you brought that.
Yeah. Well, and just lastly, I know we're kind of pushing our time, but one other thing I'd throw out there is that the leads are so important to establishing culture. We talk about this whole thing with psychological safety on teams, and that people feel safe to voice their opinion and not be made fun of. It's the leads who control that, right? I mean, if I'm a lead on a team and someone says something that I think is not a very intelligent thing, I've seen plenty of people who are more experienced who just belittle that person, and they almost consider it a rite of passage that you got to go through this if you're going to grow in this. Well, you've just damaged the psychological safety on the team, and that person's really not likely to speak up the next time they see something that might be a problem. And that's the opposite of what we want to do. So leads can have such a big influence on just saying, that's an interesting idea. Let's talk it through. Let's think it through, rather than just dismissing things out of hand and making that person feel like, well, why do I bother even raising my voice?
I mean, I think on that point, Brian, I feel you could honestly say no one controls the temperature in the room, the thermostat
Yeah.
of these, when these teams are having these kind of real technical meetings, no one controls that thermostat like the lead does, for sure. Yeah.
Yep. Absolutely agree. Absolutely agree. Well, this has been great. I wasn't sure where this was going to go, but I'm glad we did this topic because I think it's really important, and I think we hit on some really good points here. So,
Yeah, it's great.
Scott, I really appreciate you taking time to come back on and talk with us.
Always a pleasure, Brian. I really enjoy it. Appreciate all the people at Mountain Goat for sure. Thank you.
Thank you.